Hello everyone, welcome back to Introduction to Mudbox 2017. This is going to be our first project, and in this project we're going to make a rock. Sounds like a very simple object to make, but it has its own challenges to have it be sculpted and textured and have it look good. So let's go ahead and jump right in. If you guys have this window here, this should be a good starting point for us. Just go ahead and click on Sphere. If you guys are already inside of Mudbox, you can just go to Create and Mesh and Sphere, and that'll drop a primitive in there for us. Well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and rename this guy from the primitive sphere to rock. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and save it. So save scene as. Go ahead and call it rock.mud. Save that. That's fine. Get replace it. That was when I was testing earlier. Okay. Now before I get sculpting, I need to create a sculpt layer. So here's my primitive. So I'm going to go ahead and create myself a new layer. I'm going to go ahead and call this one sculpt base. And what I'm basically doing here is I'm just going to adjust the base form before I try driving in any kind of details. I'm going to use the lowest resolution that they give me to establish a form. So use my grab tool. Strength is set to 100. My size is fairly big, so that way I have a lot of pull on this thing. If you want to adjust your brush size, just hold down B, left mouse button drag. You can see the slider over here going as I'm dragging left and right. So I want it fairly big, and I'm going to just basically distort the base mesh until I have an interesting shape. And your shape does not need to be reminiscent of mine. Just get something interesting going, and we'll work with whatever we have. The one thing you do want to avoid, though, is having it to where when you're pushing in, that you see how like the geometry is going through the other side. You don't want that to happen, so Control Z that. Okay. Your shape shouldn't be totally out of control, though, because it is just a rock. It's not like you're having some kind of organic object, so don't go too nuts here. But you definitely don't want it to look like a ball or a sphere or anything. Okay. Okay, that's a good base, I think. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Bring down my brush layer. Alright, so now that I have a base shape set up, I'm going to go ahead and add a subdivision level to this. So I'm going to go to Mesh, add new subdivision level, or you can do Shift D. And I want you to notice something when I do this. You'll see there it says Sculpt Base. If I go ahead and add any subdivision level, now you'll see that Sculpt Base is now locked out. It means I can't sculpt on this level anymore. It gives me a warning saying that I'm not on subdivision level 1 anymore, and I can't sculpt on this one. So I'm going to go up one more layer actually, so we'll be able to drive in some of these details. Okay, and that'll be good for now. And before I start sculpting, since again I'm still locked out even though I'm in subdivision level 3 now, the reason why is because the layer is what's locked, so I need to create another layer. This one is now open on subdivision level 3. So I'm going to go ahead and call this one rock detail 1. I'll probably create a couple of these guys. So let's go ahead and start putting some details. So I'm not going to use grab now. Now I'm going to start going back and forth between my sculpt, my foamy, and my knife brush. So let's start with sculpt. And it says strength is at 14. Symmetry is currently off, and I don't want it on, so that's fine. Whether I want it to be inverted or not, so whether it goes in or it pushes in or it pulls out. So if oh, it has a stamp on. Let's go ahead and turn the stamp off, just for now. I want to drag in. Oh, stamp spacing is way out there as well. Let's bring that in. So there we go. So if I wanted to go out like it currently is, then I would keep this invert function off. If I want to go in, then I can turn it on and drag inward. Now I'm cutting these grooves in here. which if the grooves are too deep and you want to feather those out, you can either turn on your smooth tool. Right now it's a little bit low. We'll bring that up a little bit. And I can feather over the top of these with my smooth tool. Okay. Or if I want to amplify this ridge here, I can turn on my amplify brush and amplify the depth of that groove I set, and it also raises up that cut. So those are some things that we can play with. And you just go back and forth between them. But before I get going in all these revisions, I just want to kind of show you my methodology between the tools I like to use. So I'm going to jump back into my sculpt tool. I'm just going to add in some cuts. Okay, sculpt. And I'm just going it's still on invert. Let's turn the invert off for now. Let's go ahead and put some details in. It's a little too strong. Let's go ahead and knock that down a little bit. Say kind of like that, and something like this. Okay. I may have to retop that area. We'll see. You start having some stuff like this go on where you're dragging across it, and you start to lose your sculpt detail. Sometimes that's indicative of like the geometry just being stretched in those areas, and sometimes that means that we have what's going on right there. That means I'm probably going to retop this section here, but I'll save that for the next lesson. For now, I'm just going to kind of add some areas that are going to kind of define where I want my runs to go with the rock, so I can build up a little bit in between them. Okay, and let's do a little bit in here. I know it kind of looks like more like veins that are going in here right now, but it's just because I'm kind of define the areas I want the buildups to be. With rocks, how it's such an organic shape, it's kind of wild looking when you're first kind of setting up for it. Okay. So now I can go through and start adding a little bit more clay to this. I want to widen this up. And let's try a sculpt first. Like so. Bump the strength up a little bit. There we go. Oops. Just kind of deciding which areas I want to raise up. It's kind of an all experimental process until you really get into it. Okay. And if anyone's curious, I'm just using a mouse right now. I know that a Cintiq would definitely do me a better job, but that presumes that you guys all have them. So do the best I can with the mouse. I have a Cintiq, but okay. Do a couple little inversion cuts just to push in a couple spots. They're doing a lot of building. Okay. Just little swipes in here and there, and that just drives in some of those cuts. Okay, so we're over 11 minutes. Like I said, I'm trying to keep these lessons under 15 minutes now, so that way they aren't so grueling. My previous lessons have like stretched out to over a half an hour in some cases, so I'm going to try to keep them between 10 and 15 minutes at the max. So I think that kind of brings me to a close with this sculpt layer. There's still more details to be added in here, but for now I'm going to go ahead and save, and in the next lesson we're going to add another sculpt layer, and we're going to drive in some more details. We're going to use some projection brushes and some of these stamp brushes to even drive in more detail. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next lesson.